Why they stop on me again? Hello, this is Shantae. Um, and again, this is the power of God with Shantae. The power of God with Shantae. And I wanted to go over some things with you. Just a brief something, okay? Just get off briefly into something, okay? Um, um, do you, uh, do you remember back when before and this was in Genesis chapter 1 through 6, so you'll find all this information in Genesis chapter 1 through 6, okay, so do you remember before Eve ate the apple of off the of the tree, or ate the fruit of the tree? Remember, she ate the fruit of the tree of good and evil, and she wasn't supposed to, of course. She wasn't supposed to eat of the fruit of that tree, or else she was going to be like God, okay? She was going to be like God. And they were, but before that, they were not able to see with their eyes, the two eyes, anything. They were not able to see anything at all at that time. Okay, so the uses of these two eyes were not even in the picture yet. Okay. They was in the power of God at that time. That is that's the definition of the power of God before Eve even ate of the fruit. Adam and Eve was just there on the earth receiving. They were receiving things from God, okay? They were receiving things from God. They were not perceiving anything of the conscious mind from anything of the earth, because they were not able to see anything, okay? Because like God said, how did to Eve, when she ate of that fruit, she said, how did you know? How did you know that you were naked? I mean, meaning, like, how did you see? How did you see that you were naked? How did you place your eyes to know that? How did you put the carnal self to look down and notice you was naked, Eve? Like, that wasn't the power of God right there. He like, no, that's not my power. That's not my power. That's some other type of power. Okay, so they were in the power of God in the beginning. Okay, in the beginning, before they could see out of these two eyes. Like, let's just sit back and really understand the truth. The truth is, God knew that wasn't his power. That was not of his power for Adam and Eve to see of anything on the face of this earth. They they were not to know any of that. But he did know that it was his power when they were, just walking around in the Garden of Eden, operating in the power of God. They were receiving at that time. That was called receiving, and not seeing, but receiving. And I wanted to talk further about receiving and seeing, because this thing here is how the power of God operates. Excuse me. And that's what I wanted to touch on, of how the power of God is in operation. It's not in operation of looking on at stuff. Like, if I look at something so long, I'm going to eventually want it, okay? I'm going to want something of it, just like Eve. Eve wanted, once she once she looked on at it, she was drawn to it by another god. Okay, that snake was one of there was that god. Okay, that was another god. That was another god, and Eve was drawn to look on at that other god. And this is the thing that the Father is wanting us to know, that that the power of God is not brought on by what you see, because but by going by what you see, sometimes or any of the time, is going to draw you to this earth. Okay. And then that's when he said you're going to come back to the dust. You're going to return back to dust, because now you looking on at things of the earth, and now you're going to become like the earth, and now you're going to become back like dust. You're going to go back to where you came of dust, okay? And that's not what the Lord wants you to do. Being like dust is not within the power of God. Being of dust is in the powers of other gods. That snake that Eve listened to as she was in the garden was a god. There was another god. And in Adam in Adam, I mean, when Adam and Eve were in the garden, they didn't what was I about to say? I can't remember, but anyway, it'll come back to me. But this, again, they didn't know that they were naked. They did not know that they were naked, okay? And returning back to dust is like knowing you are naked. Let's just say that. Returning back to dust is just like knowing you are naked, okay? Because you know of evil and good now. And God, that's what I wanted to say. God, even though it's being preached out here, that so many people preach about we are gods and everything like that, God never meant for us to be like him. That's why that was going to the left and to the right, off into looking on at other gods, okay? When we start looking on like that snake made Eve do, look on at that tree, okay? The same thing with us. It's just like those are the gods of that land, which was the snake of that land. The snake who made its own business to make Eve lust of that land. Lust of that tree. And the same thing is when the other gods make us lust on at this land, when we were never meant to lust of the land. That's not the power of God. And I hear many people speak on such things, being like that's the power of God. That's not the power of God. Receiving anything that you receive, that's you don't even know that you're receiving, like that's the power of God. That's the stuff you don't see. That's receiving from heaven, okay? From God. You are the child of God. You're not supposed to be like God. You are supposed to be the child of the Most High God. He is the Most High, okay? And if you get into the Bible, you will understand what I am trying to tell you, okay? And what I'm trying to tell you is that we were never really meant to be like gods. We were never meant to be like gods. And like I said, so many people preaching on this. It's so many people preaching on how we were meant to be like gods. That's not true, because in Adam and Eve time, that snake was drawing them, which it was a god. It was a god. It was one of the gods. Okay. And it put a stronghold on Eve, and it brought her to eating of that tree eventually. She ate of that tree eventually. So why would we sit here and preach on how we supposed to be like gods? We are gods. God said, we are gods. It's put like that in the Bible. Everything in the Bible is a life lesson. And if it's a life lesson, why are we trying to confirm to every lesson that's in it? No, it's for us to learn a lesson so that we won't take and do the things that were not of God's power and do it. Okay? We were supposed to distinguish the difference between, which this is in Leviticus, we are still supposed to distinguish the difference between holy and unholy, clean and unclean. We were supposed to distinguish the difference between those things, which is what is holy comes from receiving that word, write that word down, receiving the power of God. And what is not holy or not clean comes from seeing on things. Seeing, look, and also place that word in on a notepad too. Seeing, seeing, seeing things with our eyes were never meant to be, because that was not the power of God, that was the unclean part of it. That was the unholy part of it. So how can you receive what is holy or unholy? How can you receive what is holy or clean when you're constantly looking on at your eyes of this earth, getting what is unclean and unholy? See what I'm saying? You can't serve both masters. Those are two different masters that you're putting together, which is why it says that you can't serve both manna and God. Okay? You can't serve both manna and God. If we want to go further off into what to do with unclean and clean and unholy and holy, which is receiving for God is the holy things and the clean things, and perceiving what you look on at is unholy things and unclean things. We can just simply say that we are indulging overall in the things that are not of God, that are not pure. How can we say that we're walking in the presence of God if we still going off of what we see? Don't things make you angry? Don't things make you meaning like you go off into your feelings of things? If you go by your feelings, and when you look on at something, that something may make you angry. That something may make you guilty. That something may make you disappointed or all that stuff. You know, if you keep looking on at something so long, you'll begin to become in your feelings. And your feelings is most naturally carnal. It's a naturally carnal thing, and that is not your true nature of yourself. That's not your true nature of yourself. That is the nature of your flesh. Okay? That is the nature of your carnal self. The true nature of yourself is your spirit self. Okay? But it was never meant for us to be like gods, though. I don't know why is this being preached all around the world. If you get off into Genesis and you read Genesis chapter 1 through 6, you will realize that we were never supposed to be like God. Never. The only way, when he said, when it spoke of being like God, it spoke of eating of that fruit of the good and evil tree, right? That's the only way we'll be like God, if we ate of that fruit of the tree that was good and evil. So what makes us think that that is okay to be like God? What did we do? Forget something? Did we forget what was wrote in the Bible to say something different off of what everybody said in the Bible? I mean, we can't overlook what the beginning Genesis says, to go and look into what the other people were dealing with, which was being like God. Okay? We can't go off into the Bible looking on at it like that with our eyes. We got to receive. We can't serve two masters. Again, we can't serve two masters. Manna, and we can't serve God together. Or we're going to serve one God more than the other. Okay? You see what I'm saying? Not see what I'm saying, but I just ate something, so sorry. But do you receive what I'm saying? The stuff that we are doing now is the stuff that happened after. We were only supposed to receive of God's prophetic word, like only things that he prophesied is what we were supposed to get in. Only the things he spoke was what we were supposed to get in and receive. The other stuff was life lessons that we were supposed to learn that are in the Bible. And I speak on the power of God, and that is the power of God. Receiving was our natural source of the power of God. Receiving inside here, our flesh, inside deeper than our flesh. We were supposed to receive in the spirit. That's our natural self. We were never supposed to look on in the Bible of these life lessons as if, I mean, yeah, we were supposed to be like, okay, yeah, you're right. We were supposed to take it and learn from it, but nobody's taking and learn from anything. Everybody's like, oh, well, it's in the Bible, so we are supposed to do it. How is that so? How is that so? How are you supposed to do the stuff in the Bible? Because it says that the Bible, everybody preaching on this and preaching on that about it and making everybody not want to read it, you know? Because it's contradiction that we doing before they even get to the Bible. We can't contradict the Bible like that. Like, it's not telling us to be like gods. It's not. Get into Genesis. Read Genesis chapter 1 through 6. And I'm telling you, it's not saying for us to be like gods. It only said that when Adam and Eve ate of that tree, they became like God. Okay? They became like God, meaning that, what that mean to you? They became God. Okay? Knowing the things of good and evil. And guess what they did with that? They did exactly. They didn't do too well. Just know that. They didn't do too well once they became like God. The same thing with us, becoming like God, and people preaching around the world how we are supposed to be gods. We are gods. We are God. You know, that's evil. That's wicked. That's not the power of God. You explaining to somebody how you are God. I'm not God. I'm not like God. I am a child of God. Okay? And preaching on stuff like that it's mentally disturbing. And that in that mental disturbing way of thinking is serving two gods. What can you do with that other than go crazy? And going crazy is the mark of the beast. Knowing too much but don't know anything, because you're not able to receive from the power of God. You're blocked. You're blocking the blessing. The blessing is the power of God. The power of God is to receive. That's the only way that you can get this in, is to receive. That's the only blessing. The blessing doesn't come from how much money you make, what kind of clothes you got on, what this and that association with this and that person. That's not the power of God. That's manna. That's serving man and its power and its gods, okay? And becoming just like God. Their gods, okay? You're becoming like their gods. You're not receiving, you're lusting on at things. You're looking, you're seeing. There is a big difference between receiving and seeing, which is what I speak on. Because the power of God is something that we are to receive. And that's where people get it mixed up at. It wasn't, the original plan was not to be just happy. That original plan was not to be just happy. To be happy is to go off what you see. You know, because in order to be happy, things makes us happy, right? Things. And if you go further, things of this world, the worldly things makes us happy. But that's not the power of God. It is not the power of God. Being satisfied is the power of God. Being satisfied is the power of God. Write that word down. Satisfied is the power of God. Okay? Satisfied is the power of God. That's the power of God. Happy is the power of other gods and the things thereof, and you drawing near to it, and it becoming you as a whole. And then that becomes the mark of the beast. You become completely insane. You go completely crazy. See, there are a lot of things that man do not understand yet. Okay, the mark of the beast is when you become completely mind, body, and in all, mind and body becomes completely whole. There's no cleanness, no clean, no nothing inside of you that's pertaining to God. Okay, nothing. It's just there. And of course, the power of God is way more stronger than the fire we create. Hope you know that. Which I spoke of in another video. That the power of God fire is way more powerful than the fire that we create on the face of this earth. We can strike up any kind of fire. But that fire has nothing on the power of God fire. That fire can completely devour us if we can continue to walk in the things which are unholy or unclean. That's the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is when we're walking completely in unclean things and completely in unholy things. because we've went off into serving both gods. Now we took off into when it said that once you serve both gods, you will be consumed. You will love one more than the other. Guess what? Now, since you got the mark of the beast and you have developed their ways, now you become like their God. So now we're off into that side of it, okay? Once you serving both gods, right? You got two gods. It says in the Bible, you serve both gods, you'll love one more than the other. Okay, so now guess what? You off into loving the one more than the other now. So that's the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is when now you're loving the other gods versus the God we're supposed to serve to make us satisfied in who we are. Who are we? We are the children of the Most High God. We are his children. We are not God. We are his children. And we're supposed to be like his children. That's it. No further. No further ado. We are supposed to be like his children. That's it. We never supposed to look on at the gods of this earth. There's no satisfaction in that. No holiness in that. No cleanness in that. Only thing you will go is crazy. You will go crazy mentally trying to serve two gods and then get rid of God, the God that we supposed to serve to make us satisfied. You'll go crazy walking in these other gods. Now these other gods are a part of your life. Now you don't want to turn back. Once you take on that mark of the beast, now you don't want to turn back to God no more. Now you just don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear nothing about it. That's not walking in his power. Now you're just going off everything that you see. How's that possible? Now you're walking in unbearable things. Unbearable is overwhelming things in your flesh. Yes, that's in Leviticus as well. It goes over that in Leviticus. How now you're going over into unbearable things. And I wanted to speak on that too. And I will speak on going off into unbearable things tomorrow. And the unbearable things has something to do about the blood. Yes, it does. It has a lot to do about the blood. The fire is the power of God, because one thing is we can't serve two gods. One you're going to serve more than the other. And now we're at the stage of going over into serving that God completely, wholeheartedly. And we've been bullheaded and blocking the spirit. We don't want to receive from that no more. Some of us don't want to receive from that no more. And why? Why? Bring it back to the power of God. Know that. Bring it back to the power of God. Because we need to stick to the original plan that was laid out before us on our life. Receiving is the power of God. Okay? Not seeing. Seeing things. Seeing is the power of death. Okay? Receiving is the power of God. Seeing is the power of death that will eventually become overwhelming in your life. And that's when that becomes, that goes off into the blood. And I'll be speaking of the blood tomorrow in my next video. So, yes, That was my little brief overview of the fire, which the fire is the power of God. Receiving, overseeing. And I hear a lot of people seeing a lot, okay? We become like whatever it is that we look on at, because that is serving another God. And we cannot continue to serve two gods, because we already have a God inside of us. And as we draw near on the inside of him, on the inside of us to him, we become his child, his children. The more we draw near to him, we become his children, you know. We become what is to be, in Leviticus, it spoke of once we draw near to him, he is sanctify us. Okay, he would sanctify us, and we become holy and clean, and walk into the presence of God. We will walk in his presence. In his presence, meaning that he'll still be God, but we'll walk right along in his presence, meaning we'll be his children. Chastised and everything. And a lot of people don't like to be chastised. They just want to do it their way. They want to live a happy life. And it's not about being happy, it's about being satisfied. And the only thing that can satisfy us is God. God in us. Draw near to him today. He is the blessing. And he will bless you in your life, no matter what goes on in this world, no matter what you see. Okay? Have a good day. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.